Hello, today we're going to be looking at Hebrews 2, 5 through 9. So let's jump into the text. That 4 is actually going to be really important. One of the things that we want to do every time that we read is we want to understand the flow of thought of the author. And so here, this 4 is indicating that we should understand what happened before this text. So in 2, 1 through 4. And in 2, 1 through 4, the author of Hebrews is saying that we must pay close attention to what we've heard about this Jesus. Right? God spoke through the prophets long ago, and in these last days he's spoken through the Son, and then he talks about how the Son is better than angels. Those angels mediated the old covenant. They delivered that covenant to Moses. And so he's saying, right? We have to pay attention to those kinds of ideas, and then especially we have to pay attention to the ideas that he mentioned just in those verses above in 2, 1 through 4. For since the message declared by angels proved to be reliable, right? That message that they gave through Moses was reliable. It says, in every transgression or disobedience received just retribution. How will we escape that retribution if we neglect the salvation that Jesus offers? So the author of Hebrews is going to answer that in 2, 5 through 9. How will we escape this retribution if we neglect the salvation that Jesus offers? So he's going to answer that. For it was not to angels that God subjected the worlds to come, of which we are speaking. So he didn't subject the world, right? He didn't put the world under the authority and the rule of angels, right? They're not the ones who he gave dominion to. We know from Genesis 1, 26 through 28 in particular, that he gave rule and dominion to humanity who was created in his image. And he's going to talk about that here in the next couple of verses by quoting Psalm 8. It has been testified somewhere, and that somewhere is Psalm 8. What is man that you are mindful of him? The Son of Man that you care for him. You have made him for a little while lower than the angels. You have crowned him with glory and honor, putting everything in subjection to his feet. So that's a quotation from Psalm 8. Who did God subject the world to? Well, it was humanity in Genesis 1. And here the question of reflection in verse 6 is, who are human beings, right? What is man that you are mindful of him, the Son of Man that you care for him? So it's a reflective question that the psalmist is asking and that the author of Hebrews is repeating. God, why do you care for humanity? And he's doing what Hebrew poetry does, parallelism. What is man that you're mindful of him? The Son of Man that you care for him. It's just asking the same basic question 2 times for emphasis. And here, this phrase, Son of Man, while it sometimes means, like in Daniel 7, it sometimes serves as a messianic title, it doesn't appear to be doing that here. It's not to say that it doesn't do it anywhere. It just doesn't seem to be doing it here. It doesn't use this throughout the rest of the book of Hebrews. But it's just asking, God subjected the world to humans in the Genesis creation narrative. And why does God care for humans is the question. And it says you made him for a little while lower than the angels. So not only is Jesus that way from chapter 1, but humanity has been made lower than the angels. But you have crowned humanity, him, with glory and honor, putting everything in subjection under his feet. God gave rule, dominion, and authority to humanity. So just a reflective thought here. We are stewards of what God has given us, and he expects us to as his stewards, rule that well. And he's going to, and that's in throughout the biblical account of history, especially after the fall, we see that humanity does not do that well. And so we need to be reconciled and made right with God. And we are able to do that. We're going to see the author of Hebrews is going to give us the answer on how to do that. Now, in putting everything in subjection to him, he left nothing outside of his control. So the world, as it was created, was put under subjection to humans. Everything, right? So he means everything without exception here, it would appear. Now, in putting everything in subjection to him, to humanity, he left nothing outside of his control. At the present, we do not yet see everything in subjection to him. But right now, because of the fallen nature and state of the world, it doesn't feel, it doesn't seem, we don't perceive that we are under subjection, and that is, again, because of the fall. But he's going to answer how we escape, right? How this transgression and retribution, how we can be forgiven of these things, how we can be reconciled to God. But, contrast there, we see him, and here's where he's going to make a transition in the language, who for a little while was made lower than the angels, namely Jesus. So God has given humanity control, but Jesus is the true human, right? So how is it that we don't see everything in subjection to him, but, right, that contrast, we see Jesus, we see him, who for a little while was made lower than the angels, namely Jesus, crowned with glory and honor because of the suffering and death. Now remember, he used that glory and honor up here, right? So I'll switch colors there so that we can just see that a little bit clearer. Glory and honor up here. And he's saying Jesus came with glory and honor. So glory and honor. So those are all connecting. So he's saying humanity was given dominion, but Jesus is the true human who has ultimate dominion. He fulfills that idea. Jesus was crowned with glory and honor because of his suffering and death. That shows who he is, so that by the grace of God he might taste death for everyone. So again, the author of Hebrews said, "For since the message declared by angels proved to be reliable, and every transgression or disobedience received a just retribution, how will we escape if we neglect such a great salvation?" Well, the way that we escape is through this death, the suffering and death of Jesus, and the grace of God. So even if it seems like the world around you is broken and fallen, it is. Even if everything seems to be going wrong, it might feel that way. We understand that we have solace and rescue and hope and salvation in the person and work of Christ. And remember, Jesus is better. Jesus is the answer. Jesus is better than that old way of life. Jesus is the one to whom we flee when we think that there might be some other answer or some better answer out there. There isn't. It is only Jesus. And he is the way that we escape that retribution. It is the salvation that he offers through his broken body and shed blood on the cross, and the grace of God that he tastes death, right, for those who believe. And I pray that brings you comfort and peace today.